Hello everyone, welcome back to episode 18 of Straight Talk, No BS with Matthew's Hope. I'm joined here by Pastor Scott, the founder, CEO, and president of Matthew's Hope, and also my dear friend Shelley, and she is the vice president and executive director for Matthew's Hope. Episode 18, Straight Talk, No BS with Matthew's Hope, where we're going to take a look back of 2023, the good, the bad, everything in between.
You know, before we get too far into this, let's just because if I don't get this off of me, we're not going to accomplish anything. Okay. Let's talk about the bad. Okay. I want to talk about the bad real quick. And this just happened, and I'm trying to process it, that we've had two of the homeless guests that we've cared for the last umpteen years, one mentally ill, the other one in just 72-year-old man that's in just horrible health. I mean, we give him breathing treatments and stuff when he comes in twice a week and what have you. But the one was arrested for illegal use of a shopping cart.
Yeah. What does that mean?
You know what? I have no idea what the hell that means, but I think it's legal overreach at the very best. You know, this man, he carries a cart. He probably didn't steal it. He probably found it because Erasmo, he's just not somebody who steals things, right? He doesn't ask for much, doesn't expect much. He's just trying to make it through life right now. If he tried to run, he'd die in a second. And, you know, he carries his oxygen tank and a weatherproof box, if you will, of his medical records with him. That's what he does. He's not a hoarder. It's not filled with junk. That's what it is. And, you know, all of a sudden I get this notification and we look it up online, and here he is. He's been arrested for this and then given a $500 fine.
A $500 fine?
Fine, right. Yeah, exactly, which he has no way of paying. So the next thing that's going to happen, I'm sorry, I believe it was $500 bond. Let me make sure. But typically that turns into a $500 fine once they make their court appearance and what have you. And then they're picked up whenever they're picked up again in the future. It's considered an outstanding warrant because they haven't paid it and they get arrested again. And I think it's time that the world starts to educate itself on what our Eighth Amendment is. And it wasn't written this way, obviously, years ago, but they didn't have these problems years ago. But literally, it is not illegal for an individual that has no access to shelter, which there's no shelter anywhere near here, and the ones that are in Orlando are full and have been for years, that it is not illegal for them to sleep in a public area. So we have two things. We have one who's the mentally ill person who gets arrested for camping in a COE. Now, I got to tell you, I've lived here for the better part of my life. I don't know anybody anywhere in this country and any time in history that said to themselves, I think we should go camping in a COE, Florida. Are you freaking kidding me? Right. A COE, Florida. Yeah. Love you folks, but no one's looking to camp in a COE, Florida. Sorry, Mayor Johnson, nobody's interested in camping in your city. I am so disturbed by this that, first off, she's mentally ill.
Right. Yeah.
If they want to spend their time doing something important, contact your state legislators. Start doing something about mental health. Start doing a thing about the fact that we're putting senior citizens on the streets that have health issues. Let's start being something productive instead of being a bunch of whiny asses creating problems because the pretty people don't like homeless people being seen. And that's probably one of the worst things I've seen, and that has happened in just the last couple of days, and I am beyond indignant about it. I am so disturbed by it that I had to say something, because they've never listened to me before, and I don't expect they're going to listen to me now, but it's time for the community to step up and say, what the hell are you doing? We voted you guys in office. We ask you to serve and protect. These people are not hurt. They're a disturbance. I get that. I understand that. But come on, we're going to arrest them? That's how we're using our tax dollars?
Yeah.
Merry frickin' Christmas.
And
right?
Where are they going to get $500?
There's no chance of them.
If they had $500, they wouldn't be sitting.
No chance. No chance.
Wow, that is very disturbing.
Where do you want to go from here?
I'm just taking it in for a moment because
it's
I
sad.
can't believe that that's happening.
Yeah, it's It's very, very sad.
You know, I was going to ask what your memorable moment is, but coming off of that, I'm not sure where to go.
You know, well, here's what kind of helps me restore my faith in mankind a little bit. And again, it just happened recently, and we see a lot of cool things at Matthew's Hope. We really do. But a couple nights ago, in our Wednesday evening meal, a single mom came in with her 8-year-old daughter, and they had escaped a domestic violence situation, and they were looking for shelter. And of course, in Brevard, we have no shelter, and we certainly aren't an emergency shelter. And we made some calls to different places to try to get them the help they needed, and quite honestly, nobody responded. And this is at 4:30 in the afternoon. Now, most of us at Matthew's Hope are on call 24/7, so I don't know what other folks are doing. But anyhow, don't want to digress too far there. The cool thing that happened was while we tried to figure out what to do with them, we served them a meal. And they were the last people there. And we had one of our other homeless folks come in that was late. And so dinner was gone. And I watched this homeless mother offer her meal to the other homeless person that came in because they weren't going to get any food.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, and I'm just thought to myself, my God, can you imagine if all of us acted that way?
Right.
If all of us actually acted like, you know, my Christians are the favorite. You know what one thing a Christian never has to tell you?
That they're a Christian.
That they're a Christian.
Yeah.
It will be displayed in how they act.
Their acts are going to church and listening to how you should serve, but then they don't serve.
You got it.
Right.
And
It
I'm
reminds
watching.
me of that story in the Bible where the Levite and the priest walk past the man who was injured, and they were busy. They were going to church or wherever they were going, and then the Good Samaritan, he had places to go too, but
Yeah.
he stopped and actually served.
Yeah. And it was that. So I watched this unfold in front of me, and it was almost like God poking at me and saying, Scott, just remember, there are some people.
Yeah.
The challenge is the people that seem to give the most have the least.
Wow.
That that care the most
Yeah.
and give the most have the least. One other thing I have too, and they actually videotaped this, and I didn't know was happening, is the little girl comes to me later. By the way, we end up housing them for the night in the sanctuary over in Brevard. And but the little 8-year-old came to me and she said, "Can you pray?" I said, "What do you want to pray about?" And she goes, "For safety."
Wow.
And so I said, "Well, why don't you pray?" And she said, she takes my hand and we bowed and she
Oh
prayed.
my gosh, it was so sweet. And I was like, oh my gosh, where's my phone? Where's my phone? Because I just didn't want to miss it. It was so cute.
Right.
And I mean, this little girl has no fear. She's such a happy girl.
Yeah.
It was so sweet. It was
Yeah.
so sweet. She went around with everybody, wanted to take selfies. I said, well, what are we going to do with these selfies? She went, would you please print them out and send them to me?
Oh.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah.
She's so cute.
And she was about a 15-year-old, if not a 21-year-old, in an
Yeah.
8-year-old body.
Yeah.
You could tell the child had seen something. But I mean, Mom and her were both clean and well-kept and
Yes.
well-spoken.
Yes.
You know, I mean, these weren't some bums that fell off the back of the turnip truck. And so it really did restore a lot of my faith in humanity. And I think the other thing, and I don't want to dominate this, but the other day we did a parade. And, you know, I've been dealing with some health issues and I've not been feeling good. And I start having that feel sorry for yourself moment. Hey, you're turning 62, Scott. You get cussed at every day. You get yelled at. You get people saying nasty stuff and rumors. And I'm like, I'm sitting in my truck going, you're turning 62 in June. Why even bother? Why are you still doing this? And so the parade starts out and we go out to the main road. And all of a sudden, people started waving at us and clapping and running up to the trucks and shaking our hands and thanking us for being there. And I was we had 3 vehicles out there, so I didn't know if the people in the van and the bus behind me were hearing it. And I'm going, gee, I hope they hear this.
Right.
And they were overwhelmed by it. But the most significant thing is that, you know, we have these Santa logos for the summer. We did it for our guests in gray, that we call, you know, our worker bees, and they were handing out purple candy canes to people. And when they heard the response, they were overwhelmed because they were thinking, here's the organization that's helping us. People are clapping for them, and now we're helping them help us.
Yeah.
And so it made for a really powerful moment. So, you know, I think maybe what the God had to put that in my bird's eye view at this particular time of the year, because I'm sad mostly this time of year. when we're called to celebrate. Those of us that claim to be Christ followers, we claim to celebrate this, and sometimes our ugliness, it hits a new high this time of year.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being vulnerable, talking about the challenges and the memorable, because you need both of those, and that's why we're doing the podcast, is to bring awareness. So speaking of Christmas, you guys close the door at Christmas, and a lot of people I hear are buzzing, well, why do they close the door? So can you explain to us why that is, what takes place, and everything else?
I mean, honestly, same thing with, as we said, at Thanksgiving. At Christmas, anybody is willing to help the homeless at Christmas.
There's
So,
a flood of
I mean, the calls that we get of people that want us to open our doors so they can serve the homeless, and my thing is this is out of Scott's playbook. They're not circus animals. That they're still people.
Yeah.
You're not here to
And-
see them in their natural habitat.
Right.
You know.
Right. So that's a nicer way to say it.
But it's true, because
I mean,
there's people that actually
that
will
they
send me a
just-
note, and they're
yeah.
bothered because they want to come serve what we paid for, so their children can witness it.
Right. And they want their
And-
children to have that experience,
Right.
which I get it.
I
but
do.
We need to change the mindset of
Right.
it's not just Thanksgiving.
And it's not just Christmas, right.
People need us throughout the entire year. You guys need
Right.
us throughout the entire year.
And I don't want anybody to think that we're not thankful. I mean,
Sure.
we're so grateful. We don't exist without the community. But I think that we need to educate ourselves better. I think that we need to open our eyes further. I think we need to make eye contact, but not just that few days a year. That we have to realize that these folks are with us till the end of time.
Yeah.
And not all of them are good people. I get it. But most of them are. Most of them dealt with some type of trauma, and the wheels fell off and they could not get it back on.
So let's talk about that a little bit, the crisis, and not necessarily the crisis, but people who say that they're dangerous, because I know this was a huge topic in one of our other podcasts, how the crime I think was the biggest one that we had. So let's talk about that a little bit.
You want to touch on it, or
I know it's a big one.
It just irks me because they're just people.
Yeah.
They're just people. And what makes you and I or anybody better than them? It
Right.
just gets under my skin. It just makes
Yeah.
me mad.
and statistically, it's proven that most of these folks are trying to fly under the radar.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
are
I feel
not.
it's not very factual that
It's not factual.
the homeless are what's raising the crime. Is that true or not?
It's just,
not.
no. The police departments will tell you statistically they're more likely to be a victim of a crime than be a creator of a crime. The stuff they get in trouble for is, like I said, the camping law. Okay, come on, what a bunch of BS.
Or a cart.
Okay, a cart,
I'm
a
still
shopping
on that
cart.
one, I'm sorry.
Loitering. Trespassing is a big one, but here's the other
Sure.
part of it is.
But what are they doing when they're trespassing? Are they breaking windows? Are they?
No, they're
No,
typically
like
trying to
on a
sleep.
porch,
Okay.
yeah.
Or rest a little bit.
Right.
You know, I mean,
in a safe place for them.
yeah.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that we don't see some stuff out there,
Sure.
but it's not so much. It's not the homeless. It's people that are mentally ill, and then there's criminals.
Which goes
Okay.
back to what you said before.
And-
we need to
yeah. We
take
need
that
to-
into account and do something with it.
We need to.
We need
and
some
can't-
action with it.
You can't just keep kicking it down.
Sure.
You want to look like Seattle
Just keep
and LA.
arresting them
Just
because
keep it
what's
up.
going to do that?
Yeah.
That's not going to help. So, Pastor Scott, the year's almost over.
Yeah.
Can you give us all a year in review very briefly? Maybe the number of people that you've served, meals, how many people are coming in and out the doors for specific services?
Yeah.
Brevard's open now.
Oh, my goodness. I will first tell you that this year is probably the toughest year we've ever had.
For sure. Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I think the pandemic is, like most things, is kind of like in the
We're
back.
trying to catch up.
And we blew through all our reserves during the height of the pandemic. And so we're literally day to day, week to week right now, and have been. And it's very stressful because the numbers continue to grow. We're adding somewhere between 10 and 25 people at each location every month. I just did some numbers Thanksgiving to Thanksgiving, And keeping in mind that in Brevard, we've really only been doing services over there like haircuts, showers, medical, food pantry, and things like that. We've only been doing those for about 90 days over there.
Okay.
And when you bring the numbers together, Thanksgiving to Thanksgiving, we're approaching 20,000 visits.
Yeah.
If that doesn't boggle anybody's mind, okay, I mean, I found it, we've gone through something like $2 million worth of just food, clothing, and hygiene.
That's amazing.
Which is just astonishing. And,
Yeah.
in years past, we never had to buy food, clothing, or hygiene.
Okay.
But the numbers have grown so significantly, so fast, that though our donor base is larger than it's ever been, our average donation is down somewhere between 50 and 60%. And I think part of it is the economy. Our typical donor is middle class, and the middle class has really been beaten up in this economy, laying sideways. And then the folks that people think have money, they have assets.
Sure.
Right.
Okay,
right.
and that's a big difference between having assets on paper and having money to send. And so our big donors, quite honestly, their donations have been down 50 to 60% as well. And so it's been a very interesting, we're a faith organization, so that was what we focus on, is our faith. But I would not be lying to tell you that I lay at night some nights wondering how we're going to make it through the next day.
So we'll talk about that in a little bit, how the community and how we can help you guys, come out of that and get some more reserves and stuff. But first, let's talk about, do you guys have a most memorable moment from 2023? Is there anything that sticks out to you that you want to share?
Gosh, there's so many.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start.
Maybe with an employee or a guest or someone. that you guys serve?
I'll say this: when an employee gets it, because a lot of times, our director over here, she didn't come to work for me because she had a heart for the homeless. She came to work for me because somebody said Shelley needs a receptionist.
Yeah.
This year, I have seen her get it.
Yeah.
And I see her getting teary-eyed, and she's not a teary-eyed person. She's
Wow.
worse than me.
No.
She's worse than me. It takes a lot to get me to cry, and it takes a whole lot to get her to cry.
Wow.
But I've seen her become mushy. And I would say, if I have a memorable moment, that's that. Is just when you see when our employees get it.
I love that.
That is a good one, because Andy was an air traffic controller in the military.
Okay.
That's kind of how she eventually got the position, because my attitude was, well, my God, if she can keep planes in the air,
Yeah.
she can certainly help
Yeah.
us direct traffic and all this chaos on an
Right.
outreach day. And she's very military minded in her mindset, in the black and white, and doing things perfect and in order. And we live in the gray. I tell people all the time, we understand black and white, but we swim and live in the gray of trying to help these are individuals, and to see her come to me or to Shelley and say, hey, I think we should do such and such for something. You kind of like going like, well, who invaded your body?
Right. Right.
And it's been very interesting in how she manages everything and how she goes through things. Her growth has been amazing. And that has been
And
a
she's
lot of fun.
sandpaper to a lot of people.
Oh, she is. But you know
But
what?
that's okay.
In her position, though, the hard part about being in the upper level management of Matthew's Hope is that you can't let your heart get ahead of your head.
Yeah.
Because there's things that we just can't do. But we're never going to be that place that tells you no right off the bat. It may end up being no, but let's look at under every part of the rug, every corner,
Yeah.
every crevice, and see if there's a possibility of helping. And she and others have come on board with us that they're looking for every nook and cranny, every possibility.
I love that, because you
Yeah.
need a good team like that, especially in what you guys do.
Oh.
How about the most challenging time this year?
Fundraising.
Yeah.
That's true.
I don't have any tricks up my sleeve. People sit there and say, Scott, you work
Scott,
your
do your
magic.
thing.
Yeah, do your thing. And I'm going,
I've even been guilty of saying that. Scott, do your thing.
what is my thing? I'm just trying, like the rest of us, to get day to day. I think that unfortunately this, if people want to see what's going on in the world, just watch television. And two things, what you'll notice is who runs all the commercials.
Yeah.
Okay. And secondly, you'll notice that not the larger nonprofits nationwide are advertising like they never have before, because they're experiencing the same thing we have. And so what happens, we can't do that. We don't have a way to get our face out in front of people like that. And so you throw in all the different, natural disasters we've had the last few years, along with this economy and all the different things that have happened. And unfortunately, that's really tough to stand out in the middle of all that.
Yeah.
So it's really been tough. And it's been tough to make sure people understand we're thankful, but we just need to figure out how to do more, or we won't be here to do anything.
And it's going to get worse. What are you guys most proud of? Or
Gosh.
proud?
We're still
maybe
here?
of
Yeah,
someone.
right.
Maybe there's a success. Maybe there's somebody who's gotten off the streets and on their feet.
I think, well, you do, I think one of the coolest things, and we mentioned that, I think we talked about Shannon in the past.
A lot, yeah.
But Shannon's story
And she's been on
keeps
podcasts with
unfolding.
us. Yeah.
She closed on her own house
That's amazing.
in the last about a month and a half, 2 months. But what was really cool is a few weeks ago, she had a dinner party where she invited us to dinner at her house that she was fully in control of, that we didn't support or finance in any way.
Wow.
And that's the greatest thank you ever. But I have to tell you, when I got in my car, I kind of lost it a little bit, because it was like, that was the one thing that I tell people. They say, how can I thank you? I say, invite me to your house someday.
Yeah.
And Shannon invited me to her house. She invited us to her house, and we had this meal together, and it was
It was
It
a
doesn't
sweet
get any
moment.
better.
It was a sweet moment. Yeah.
That's super
And then she
inspiring.
just bought her own brand new car.
yeah.
Wow.
And she's
Yeah.
donating her car back to us.
Isn't that
love
amazing?
that.
She's donating her car back to
I guess
us.
said before, it's like a circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She gets it.
Shelley, is there anything that's inspiring that sticks out to you that you can share with us?
I mean, Shannon's a big one for
Yeah.
sure. We haven't had
kinda
Miguel
kept
on
you
the
going.
podcast, right?
No, he's not much of a camera guy.
He's not. I would say Miguel has been my biggest challenge, as well as he's broken my heart this year. And I'm about to cry.
It's okay.
But then he's come back around. I love that man, but man, he's been tough.
Yeah.
He's been tough.
Yeah, he
And he knows I love him, and he knew when I was upset with him, and it upset him that I was upset with him. But he also was in a place where he didn't care much.
You know what's super inspiring is I'm feeling this bond that you guys get with these people. And even when they're up and even when they're down, or when they make a good choice and then they make a bad
Yeah,
choice,
yeah.
as we all do, but you guys are still there for them and loving them. And I can
Yeah.
feel and see that bond that you guys are creating with these people.
Miguel was the first guest I served, and I remember looking at Glenda going, "What do I do with him?" And she was like, "You just work through it." And I was like, "I don't know what that means."
I think that
He was mean.
We all are like
with
too.
Miguel, he was mean, he was
He
angry,
was. He was.
he was belligerent, and he turned into being this incredibly soft soul. We had his eyes fixed, and he has 20/20 vision now. He had his teeth replaced. He worked for that. With his points, he bought a vehicle. He was doing great. I think part of the challenge is there was still a little bit of his homeless mentality.
Yeah.
And he started to believe, I think, that he was more important than he really was. And when we tried to reel him in, he pushed back. And the truth is, we let him go. He's working for us, we let him go. And he looked at me, he says, "I'm going to drink if you do that." And I said, "If you choose to drink again, that's on you, Miguel, that's not on me." And in fact, he did it.
Yeah.
He went on a binger. And then he put himself in rehab. And he came back and he humbled himself. And he said, "I was wrong. I want to come back.
Yeah.
I want to come back." And, he is following the direction he's being given.
Wow.
But sometimes you have to let people fail, as painful as it is. There was nothing more painful for either one of us than to hear him and see him just completely fall apart
Yeah.
after coming so far and being sober for so long. But see, we can't make that decision. He has to, and he made the decision. He used what he learned, And without, I mean, we didn't say, go get rehab. We didn't tell him any of that.
No,
He went
no.
all that on his own.
I feel that would make him so much more stronger because it's him doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's him making
It was-
that choice.
right,
It's him
right.
taking the responsibility and saying, okay, you have to do this.
I'll say, though, for Miguel, that's kind of been his step all along the way.
Yeah.
He did not want to come into housing. And then the first, wasn't 2 weeks, he slept on the floor because he didn't want to get used to being in a house.
I suppose there's so much fear. I
yeah.
can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, this is great,
So-
but when is it going to be taken?
Yeah, I've seen so much of that in Miguel's walk. Man, he's stubborn. He's
Yeah,
so
he
stubborn.
is. But we see that a lot, especially with men. You know, men will drive themselves into a brick wall at 100 miles an hour as long as they feel that they have their hand on the steering wheel. You know, I think one of the other thing cool that right now is at both locations we have more, what sometimes I lovingly call to as gray shirts, but these are homeless men and women that are working for points, for things they need, paying off debt, paying off child support, paying off old fines, having their teeth replaced, getting eyes done, what have you. We have more than ever of these folks working for points. And just to share with that again, you know, points are backed by real dollars, but we help control how they're spent so that, you know, your child support or wherever gets paid. And we move you forward towards that life of independence and self-sustainability. And if somebody were to walk in any one of our locations now, any day of the week, they would see several men and women in the gray shirts doing their thing.
Yeah.
So we're on episode 18. It's been amazing. I've learned so much. I hope everybody else is learning a lot. We've had goals in mind. What, for you, Shelley, what are you wanting people to take from this podcast and teach others? I think that's important that we not only keep it with ourselves, we don't keep it with ourselves, but we also teach others.
That these are just people, and I want to rehumanize them. I mean, it just makes me so sad when I see people mistreating what I very much lovingly refer to as my people.
Yeah.
They're my people, and when I see them being mistreated, it just makes me so angry and sad at the same time.
How about you, Scott?
I think that what Shelley says is absolutely true. Somehow we have dehumanized these folks. And, you know, the whole reason I want to do this podcast, I mean, quite honestly, it's an investment to do this. It takes time, it takes money to do this. And our hope in creating this, and I hope we can go forward, to be honest, I was hoping we'd have more followers by now, because I think that sometimes it's that some people think that we're this giveaway organization, what have you, and that's the furthest from the truth. It's help us, help them, help themselves. And my goal in starting this was that we would, again, rehumanize people, but we would also put to rest a lot of the gossip, a lot of the storytelling, a lot of the fear, a lot of the, quite honestly, the crap that we hear every day that is unfounded and unwarranted and unhelpful. And, you know, so I'm hoping that the last 18 episodes that somewhere if people have seen it themselves to invest a few minutes to learn and educate themselves, that will help us going forward and help our country as a whole. This is not just about where Matthew's Hope is located. This is an issue that's happening throughout our country, and it's not going to get better anytime soon. And so as we look at the Christmas season, as we think of the season of giving, my hope is that people will prayerfully consider supporting Matthew's Hope. I'm hoping that people might consider becoming a sustaining donor with a monthly gift of some kind. You know, people don't understand that it's $10 a month, $25 a month, $100 a month, whatever you feel you can sacrifice. Okay, because, you know, most people look at it as sacrifice. I look at it as an investment into humanity.
Yeah.
But as a sacrifice, whatever you think you can sacrifice, however you've been blessed. You know, one of our big donors said to me one day, he said, Scott, he said, I grew up in Cupcake, Iowa.
Is that a real city?
He said, no, it's not a real city.
Like,
His
I wanna
point
live there.
was,
Right.
life was good. They didn't have
We all wanna live there.
these issues,
Right,
okay?
right.
And he said, I didn't choose what shore I washed up on. He said, for whatever reason, I've been blessed. And for whatever reason, the things I've done in life have been successful. And it's real important to me that I understand that this is not mine. I have simply been blessed to be in charge of it. and I want to make sure my life and my financial success counts for something.
That's good.
But he said, I didn't make the choice. Why other people roll up on some other shore, I don't know. I don't understand it myself. But I understand that I am blessed and I should be a blessing to others. And I heard that, and I was blown away by that. But then I thought that's the kind of giving that makes a difference in this world.
Definitely.
It's not the giving out of your abundance. It's often that widow mite story is true. If somebody gives me $1,000 that's a multimillionaire, and someone gives me $100 that it was the last 100 they got, who gave the most?
Right.
Right.
You know,
right.
and I think possibly because people understand where they're at. So as we go into this, we're in the middle of this holiday season, we need to really consider about that, because whatever you believe, we're not here to tell you believe.
Right.
We're here to sit there and say, hey,
Let's believe in each other.
participate in the planet.
Yeah.
Right,
You know,
right.
participate in it, because
Right.
this is an audience participation life. It's not sitting on the sidelines seeing what happens.
Right.
And complaining about it or judging it.
Yeah.
Well, there's more to come in 2024. I'm excited to talk more about our new goals and educate more. So that will be coming. Thank you all for watching. My goal is for you guys to share this. Share it with your platforms, with your friends, with your neighbors. Educate yourself, educate your kids, and give a helping hand in any way that you can. We'll see you next time. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Make it a Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Year round.
Yes.
Yes.
Good point.
Be blessed.